Professor Macharia Munene is a political historian, and I think there are many other titles that you don't put to that name, but you're here this morning. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Josphat Kamanya is a political analyst, also here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We're getting into conversations this morning. Many things are happening. We'll get into that in just a bit. Dennis Aseto has gone to Zambia this week.
And we are in Zambia. We recognize that they came to the country to play some football.
You're not going to let that go, are you?
I know. And Kenya did that thing. But it is also a beautiful country because you look at the economy, mining. They produce cobalt and copper, one of the biggest producers of copper. And you look at their tourism, and maize happens to also be their staple. And they cook something called shima, which is a porridge. Like it's not ugali, it's porridge like, and that is the national dish, one would say. But let's go to our proverb today. And a small tick can cause great sickness. A small tick can cause great sickness. Josphat, how would you interpret that?
Well, a very good morning to Dennis Squared. And to other Kenyans who are watching and listening to us. I think a very small tick can cause
great sickness.
It talks about functionality, in my opinion, that every cog of the machine is important. Whether it is fully functional, that depends now on the outcome that you'll have. So for me, it's about functionality. Every part being in play and in place at the right time, in the right motion, then you're going to have a good output.
Prof?
Well, essentially, don't ignore anything, no matter how small it is, because the damage can be something else. Yeah.
Well put, well said.
Indeed. All right. So tomorrow is the 21st of August. And there's a lot of hullabaloo around what will happen when former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua jets back into the country. His party, the DCP party, and the Secretary General have made an announcement. They gave a presser the other day, and they basically told us that there's going to be the mother of all peaceful marches. It's not a protest because nothing to protest about, I imagine, but that there's something that they're trying to say. And so we're looking at that coming back, and we're asking questions around, so what does this exactly mean? But beyond that, we've seen another play in politics that has developed over the last 3 weeks, whereby there has been a pronouncement by the government, by the president, over corruption. And that for the first time in a most robust manner than he has ever been doing or has ever done since he took over office, that he has overtly expressed his disdain for corruption, but has brought it right to the foot of Parliament and has said, National Assembly, Senate, there's a problem here. Your houses are in a mess. You people are taking bribes. Everything is crazy. And members of Parliament got their knickers in a twist yesterday and have said, this is not on. So there are many things happening in what would be the same political vortex in the country at the moment, and then we must ask, how do we pick it apart and see this thing for what it really is? Prof?
Actually, it's an interesting scenario, especially the part about corruption. The president reading the Riot Act on the MPs who think for the first time in a long time they rebelled against the president. The right on his face and said, no, you can't call us that. And so when they met at first, the assumption was that they were going to discuss how ODM and UDA will gang up and pass some things that are pleasing to their political interests. But then both Raila and Ruto went out of their way to annoy the MPs.
Was it an ambush?
Went out of the way to annoy them?
It looks like as if it was an ambush. They wanted a big diversion, the public to be diverted with something. So when Raila goes and tells the MPs to forget about CDF, they say, no way. Then Ruto says, yeah, you people are all crooks. Say, what are you talking about? and the president talking with a lot of authority.
Yes.
You get 10 million or 100, whatever it is, and when he raised the issue, where do you get 150 million shillings to work around with? It was a good question. But then how did Sudi have 145 million to go around with?
Well, he's an MP.
So a lot of questions are raised. What's going on? Could be a very good way to divert attention
from something.
And related now to that other something is this fellow who refused to fade away from the public. That's Gachagua. When he was impeached, he was supposed to stay dead, politically dead, and something went wrong. Because he didn't. He resurrected.
He didn't stay dead.
No. He refused to stay dead. And that has become a problem in the country.
Joseph, why is it a problem that impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has refused, according to Prof's words, has refused to stay dead?
Well, indeed, it's a problem for the regime. You have also to understand whose problem is it. It's a problem not for the people of Kenya, but for the regime, for the leadership of the nation. Because he is exposing the underbelly of the so-called cabal that is existing in State House. He comes out guns blazing and firing and exposing all the underhanding and undertaking of deals or mismanagement of our resources in general, which makes now people see the president and his people in a different light. And therefore, him being away, they have alleged that there has been tranquility, but I guess it's because they don't understand where the exact opposition lies. The exact opposition lies with the people. But also because the impeached former deputy president has the capacity to excite emotions. So his homecoming is also alarming to them. And they're wondering now, when he comes back, what more will he speak of? What more will he say? Because even during his tour, we've had him make statements that are also still casting, shade on the president and the regime, basically. So I think his homecoming is a problem to them. It's going to give them more sleepless nights. He has managed to set on fire, figuratively speaking, the political alliance that the president has been trying to build.
Why are we calling it a homecoming as though he's a prodigal son who's returning to the country after having to go and squander his father's goods or resources? He's a Kenyan who went abroad. It's just because he held the position that we're giving it a lot of attention.
Well,
why?
We've had many homecomings. We had Miguna homecoming. Well, he's coming home, but he's not, I agree with you, he does not hold any substantive office. He's just a Kenyan, a normal Kenyan, an impeached person actually, who constitutionally cannot even hold a public office. But I think it's in light of him having tried to format an opposition, the coalition of the deputies, is what is giving now this, what do you call them, the UDA-ODM alliance, some excitement, because they don't know what he's going to say when he comes back. They don't know what he's going to tell Kenyans when he comes back. He has officially joined the public in saying that this government is not functioning. So, and you see, the balkanization is trying to drive around the country, as divisive as it is. It is not good for the regime, but it is good for the people.
When you say balkanization, what exactly do you mean? So here we have the former deputy president impeached, going around the country, selling his agenda, coming up with the party, knowing very well that he can't run for office, but he's been making inroads anyway.
Correct.
And here is an individual who's coming back, and he has carried the tag of being a tribal man, based off immediately after forming government and the shareholding statements that he made. And if you look at it right now as we speak, the government would say that man, he has nothing to offer. Prof, does he have anything to offer?
Yes, he has excitement to offer, and people get very excited about it. The former deputy president, yes, he was impeached, unfairly though, but he was impeached. And part of his popularity was because the whole process was unfair, and it was perceived to be that way. So there's a lot of sympathy towards him because of that, and he exploits it very well. Because people say, no, this was not, As I say, we know it was not unfair. It was not fair. So they do that. Second, he has his own problems. The mention about the shares and the traps. Now, if you are to believe Governor Mutahi, it was not his idea to say those things. He was told by Ruto, go and say the following. And then he went and said the following, which now turned against him. Yeah? Now, if the governor is correct, then it raises questions about Gachagua's judgment. Because as a leader, he should be able to tell what things are should or should not be done. And so that admission by the governor was not very positive for him, although it was meant to be a way of exonerating Gachagua from the blame, but then it also brought another issue. Is he not mature enough to be able to tell things that are not proper or what? And he has unfortunately displayed that aspect of immaturity, because some of the things he says, you see, wait a minute, did he say that? And he wants to lead. So the Ruto side does not have to do a lot of things for him to do himself some damage, because there are expectations that people who are leaders, there are some things they will not do.
And Prof, you say a lot in terms of the judgment from an individual, and that if you just, as Okari would say, zoom out and just start picking things one by one, you'd assume that that is pretty much what the leadership in the country is doing. Pretty much when they're told by the party leaders, go do this, they do that without asking questions. Go past Finance Bill 2024, even when Kenyans have said, no, that's exactly what they do. Go past this law, regardless of public participation not happening. Impeach Gachagua without going through the due process. Still goes to do that. And Kamanya, for a country and its leaders who do not have their own brains to think for them, if one would say, then what's in it for the country if you're being led by people who are Mr. Yes, sir?
You know, the making of a tyrant or dictatorship is what we are facing. The leadership has abdicated the role of working on the public policy and serving us as Kenyans, and committed themselves to enriching the few. And when you look at even if you draw back a few years ago, you realize the former President Uhuru came out and told us that we were losing 2 billion every day. And we wondered, why are you telling us? You're the president. You should do something about it. So now we have a replica of the same. Fast forward, the current president comes out and says, my people are corrupt. Because the people who run the houses are the speakers, the majority leaders, and the minority leaders, and the whips of the houses. And those are the people who move the people. So it is expected that the ones who've been extorting and moving the money. But where has the money been coming from? Again, because most of the businesses that has needed attention of the full house have been government businesses. So if there has been bribery and corruption, money must have come from the government. And then he goes on to say that we're going to arrest these people. I'm waiting for the day. I'm really waiting for the day. And I know Kenyans want to see how this plays out. But most importantly, as you say, you're asking where does this leave us as a country? It leaves us in a situation whereby, as the Gen Z revolution clearly stated, this government has been rendered illegitimate. That is where we are. We are at the mercy of the Constitution. We are only at the mercy of time. Because again, even the judiciary cannot really help us. I don't think so at this moment. We've had attacks from the same executive telling the judiciary, you're too lenient. You need to be more tough. That's why I'm saying the making of a tyrant, rising to dictatorship. That is where we are. But I think as Kenyans, we must rise up and call it out for what it is. Because today I wonder where, the Juja MP, Koimburi, I wonder where he is. I hope the president owes him an apology, because when he came out and said MPs were bribed, remember, for the impeachment, the whole house rose against him. But then the president had come out and said, actually, yes, money has been changing hands.
And speaking of money changing hands, Prof, so President Ruto is in Japan, okay? But right before he jetted out of the country, beyond saying this at the devolution conference where he started this conversation, and then yesterday, before leaving, to demonstrate his seriousness about this matter, he then went ahead and created a powerful multi-agency team that will then spearhead, the war against corruption and further economic crimes and related offenses. Now, the agency is going to be domiciled in the office of the president, and with the Attorney General as its secretary, and bringing together an array of other agencies. So you look at the National Intelligence Service, you're looking at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, KRA is also there, Central Bank, Financial Reporting Center, Asset Recovery Agency, and the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. It almost appears that this is now the army that is ready for war. He's actually going on the offensive. Now, in Parliament, there was no applause to this move. Ordinarily, you'd expect people will, especially the members of Parliament, will actually applaud this move. Instead, he was met with fury. I'm looking at Kimani Ichung'wah, for example. His last tweet was pictures of that meeting at Karen. I think this was before Raila and Ruto spoke. But from yesterday, we are starting to see now a different tone. And there was a press briefing. And Kimani Ichung'wah said, Ruto and Raila shouldn't intimidate you, now referring to the MPs in the House. We are not doing them a favor by being in this House. It's hard to believe that now we've reached the point where he would, the likes of Kimani Ichung'wah will say something like this, and other MPs allied to both ODM and UDA speaking against their masters. What do you see happening? I know you earlier said there's something else happening behind the scenes, but this is what you're dealing with at the moment. What are your projections? What is going on behind the scenes?
I think there is a big cover-up taking place.
Big cover-up?
Yeah, or something. I don't know what it is. But something is being covered. They're putting together a new committee of the same people. Doesn't add value. All it says is that they have all failed. Because those agencies that you mentioned, it's their job to be catching these people. So they have been failing. So now putting them together as a team, is that going to make them more efficient when they have been failing individually? There is something wrong that's going on. It might turn out that a few people will be sacrificed. Exactly who will be sacrificed is another matter. Maybe Kimani Ichung'wah might be one of them. Because
could that give rise to the boldness with which he spoke in Parliament yesterday?
Possible, yeah. And when the president was talking about more than 100 million shares, somebody moving around with it, and then there was a story, I don't know how true it is, that Kimani Ichung'wah bought what, shares worth 100 and something million? And say, where did he get that money? So I tried to say, is there a connection here? And then some people, other than Kimani Ichung'wah, beginning to sound like Moses Kuria. Or Gachagua, something is wrong somewhere. And there is likely to be some shake-up in the governing structure. And some people will be shown the door.
To what end? And I think this is the thing that we always try to say, and try to see, look through the clearing and beyond the stirring of the waters.
Right.
That to what end would it be that, even as Okari was saying that, previously, if such a stakeholder committee was put together, we would see rapturous applause. I'd go further and say the president only needed to open his mouth and say whatever he wanted to say, and those who are in opposition would have a problem, and those who were in support, without even hearing the words, would be in absolute support. But that changed in less than 2 weeks, and he said something that would essentially attack individuals or groups of people. And for the first time in a very long time, we have seen Parliament, Senate, and the National Assembly come together across political divide.
Right.
it seems a little bit more to me than just a renewed fight against corruption.
It is true, and you're right when you say there's something more than just a fight against corruption. And I think the unity of purpose, the both houses, and also, the government joined the opposition, or the opposition joined the government, however that format looks like, has now come out to threaten the MPs. That's why they're coming out united. You realize that the UDA-ODM alliance calls for political realignment. And the people that the president is speaking to, in my opinion, that have been rent seekers on behalf of the welfare of the members of parliament, are his men, his inner circle. And you realize when the NADCO came up, when the president and the Raila Odinga came together, led to the crucifixion or impeachment of the former deputy president. So these new alliance that you're seeing also must mean that room has to be made for political realignment. And there is no better way of trying to get rid of your people than acting like the hyena. When it wants to eat its cubs, it says they're smelling like a goat. So for the president to get rid of his people who are around him, could be now the majority leader, as Prof is saying, he has to come up with a story, whether true or not. Because also, remember, politically, he's the one person that the president seems to be counting on. He's the ODM fraternity.
If that's the case, why use corruption? Because let's be honest here, that in President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, if he was open about the problem of corruption, about money being lost, I think it's still used in every single economic conversation to date about how much money is lost on a daily basis and where it goes. We've had members of parliament who've told us over and over that money changes hands. They know the whole bathroom in parliament scenario where you can get 10,000. It's not new. It's not a novel thing. Right. It has been known. It's been said over and over again. Why use something like that is in the public arena, that is not, it is an open secret, to then try and oust other people? It doesn't seem to make sense.
We possibly may want to wait and see why he has decided to throw the entire National Assembly and the Senate under the bus. Maybe he has realized they have ran their course when it comes to moving the masses, moving the public. Because for him to seek re-election, this is purely, in my opinion, this is purely a presidential agenda, and it's geared towards the 2027 campaign. He's trying to find out, how can I best now realign and create a team that hopefully may help me propel out there in prevailing over the masses. So I think it's a calculated move, but again, as you say, why use what is obvious?
Yeah.
And everybody knows that the president has been accused of corruption. So people are saying the king of corruption is now crying foul when his game is not working correct.
Can we separate it from the hallowed return of Rigathi Gachagua tomorrow?
There could be. There is an assumption that Gachagua's return tomorrow might be received the way Raila was received before. There's a time when Raila came back from somewhere, and in that reception, a new terminology was created. He was called Baba. From that moment, he became Baba. Equally, when Tiba returned back in the 1990s from his sick bay in London, and he was received as a big hero, whether it was organized. But there is that moment that there's something. Now, will Gachagua fit that kind of expectation? And then what he might get to his head and say, now if this kind of reception, then I have it, and mobilize. So there is an attempt to downplay that expectation. It is also possible that the MPs who have been down the ground and they have been told in no uncertain terms, we don't like what you people are doing. You are doing this and this. So if the MPs are gradually beginning to move away, maybe it was prudent for the president to hit them before they are seen to have moved away. And so that can say this. And the issue of corruption, I think even the papers are showing that there is a log in your eye. What are you talking about? Which is not a very good image because he has not been able to explain properly a few things associated with him about even building a church worth 1.2 billion shillings at the State House. That's public property. The State House is public property. So how do you build a private thing in a public property? That's grabbing, And some people say, well, deal with that. Or some other thing that can be raised questions, like is it the faith intercessors? What are those kind of things. So he has a credibility problem. And President Ruto, give him credit, he tries very hard to be the brilliant everything. He is not doing very well at home, but he likes to be seen outside there as the leader of the Africans. And if that one he pushes. So he keeps on going there to be received as the leader of the Africans and get good coverage. In a few places like France, Macron likes him, so he gives him a chance to address a rally in Paris. You say, how is that? When Biden was around, he thanked him a lot for agreeing to send a police officer to Haiti and gave him a nice treat, including sitting on a presidential chair in the Oval Office. Those are thanks. He tries. Now the problem is that his domestic policies have been undermining his foreign image, and he doesn't know what to do. So occasionally he has to come up and sound as if he's really doing something.
And when you talk about domestic policies, one would argue that right now, if you look at the political chairs being played, it's as if we're retreating to what it is we're used to doing very well, and that is going back to our backyard, our tribal politics, and pushing it. Because now one would argue that President Ruto has seen that Mount Kenya is gone. Gachagua has gone with that, and there is no way of getting that back. Hence the reason why issues to do with corruption and knowing who exactly to sacrifice becomes now a conversation. Because on the other hand, his backyard, President Ruto's backyard, Rift Valley, is in check. Raila Odinga's backyard is in check. So let's these big tribes form a coalition against these other tribes. I don't know. It is a conversation that is happening out there, but is it a conversation that has any basis whatsoever?
Well, in my opinion, given the current times we are living in, that tribal conversation has no basis. And I think it is very unfortunate that sometimes we try to use our cultural heritage to not accelerate ourselves as a country economically and socially, but to divide ourselves more. But I'm glad, on the other hand, that the current generation, the times we are living in, people are very woke. They know, regardless of where I come from, I want a functional government. I want a president, an MP, an MC, an agency that delivers. When they say I'm going to have this service because I paid this money in form of tax, I should get it. It does not matter who is in office. So the question for the 2027 election is not about the tribal balkanization that we have seen these old politicians. Remember, we have these old politicians, not necessarily by age, but by their thinking, led by now the impeached deputy president, thinking that because I come from a certain tribe and we are many in numbers, if we come together, we can form government, and then what? You get? And remember, especially for him, he has a track record of failing and exhibiting poor judgment. He once tried to become the Mount Kenya kingpin when he was in office as a deputy president. That collapsed, flat face. When he came out, he's tried to mobilize people from the Mount Kenya region, and unfortunately, he's been trying to pit the tribe from the central area as the one tribe that is against this regime and that must make presidency for the country to progress. But that's not the case. The Mount Kenya region are purely an economical and industrial lot, and they know that the the growth of a people in the region depends on the functionality of a government. It is also a good thing that there are many in numbers, so having political interest, they understand. Politics define everything. The how much you get to pay for a cup of coffee, how much you get to pay for the price of sugar and a liter of petrol. So the tribal conversation today has no basis. We should be focusing on an issue-based conversation where we ask ourselves as Kenyans, because we are in a global village and we'll be left behind if all we do is continue with the corruption and poor leadership. What do we want? That's the question we should be asking. Come 2027, what kind of government do we want to form? And I keep calling all this from the president, all these people who are working for the government, that they are our employees. My employee number one is the president as a taxpayer of this country. So 2027 should be, what kind of people do we want to employ and put into office to offer certain services, specifically as defined by the Constitution, so that in time we're able to get over this formation, as Dennis was saying, of commissions to fight corruption. Yet you have all the agencies who are getting paid to do exactly that, so that we avoid a situation where a president comes and says, my parliament is corrupt. Yet these are his people. He's confirming the incompetency.
Right.
So I think the tribal card has no basis, and we should not pay much attention to it, just like we should not pay much attention to the impeached deputy president.
Should we also pay attention to then these current issues, because it got Parliament in a tailspin? That's all they talked about yesterday. The entire nation suddenly is thinking that the administration is very concerned about corruption, which, if we want to double click on that just a little bit, it is very possible that that is not actually the issue. It's called dead cat theory. We're all around a table and we are supposed to be looking at issues that affect the nation, but then somebody comes and they throw a dead cat on the table, and suddenly we're all looking at this dead cat, and meanwhile the rest of the negotiation happens under the table and the two people walk out the room.
I think that may be going on, and I also don't think that the country has bought into that because they can see through it. They wait up, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's when they're saying, in fact, when the president talked that way, and then people say, wait a minute, tell us more about it, because it was not believable. And I would agree that Gachagua is not a factor, whether in tribe or whatever. He's not. He's a good exploiter of things, but he's not the factor, because the drifting away from Ruto started long before Gachagua was impeached, so it's got nothing to do with it. I think last year with the Gen Z, they shocked two people, and we are dealing with the repercussions of that shock. One of them was Ruto. He didn't expect it. The signs were there, but then it just came and hit them very hard. The other one was Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga had been the symbol of protests, which didn't go very far anyway, except that he usually got something out of it. Now you have these young people coming from nowhere, and they shock the country. How? And we have been living with those shocks, the repercussions of it. How do you stop these young people anymore? And one of ways of stopping the young people is to play the tribal card and keep on emphasizing it as if they are that too. And unfortunately for them, I think the young people are wiser than their grandparents. And they are not buying into that because it's not helping. The services have gone down. It's got nothing to do with a particular tribe. People are not going to school. The university students are not going to universities, despite having so many universities with some unqualified people as teachers.
Don't say what you think, Prof.
But they are still there. But the students cannot go because they cannot pay. You go to the health services, and maybe a few people get treated, but many people are complaining. There's no, so that's what's bothering people. What's going on?
Whereas there are so many things that could be paid attention to. The corruption that continues to sit on the shoulders of the country like a monkey is not has never been dealt with, probably not going to be dealt with. You're putting together a stakeholder committee with organs which are supposed to be dealing with this thing anyway, to take away people's attention. And so are Kenyans at this point then wondering, how about we deal with those things that are the issue? We talked about SHA earlier, we talked about health, talk about education, talk about the circulation of the economy. These things that are not working, that leadership essentially is supposed to, at the very least, tweak to make sure that it does work. So are Kenyans asking the questions and saying, hold on a minute, no, don't deal with corruption at the moment, deal with all these other things. And if you do, then you inadvertently deal with the corruption issue. Is that the direction it would be going?
Yeah, that would be the expectation. And Kenyans are saying that. That's why, as Prof says, we are not buying into the corruption story. Because when you look at how this administration has been operating, from day one, they have been plagued by scandal after scandal, misappropriation after misappropriation of resources. So it's only that it has caught up now with the highest, I would say, tire of the administration. But again, as Prof says, remember, Zakayo Washuke started way before the impeachment of the former deputy president. So Kenyans already, we were aggrieved and agitating for, no, we need proper leadership, we need good governance and proper utilization of our resources. That is still the clarion call. And that's why when you see the regime trying to deal with the repercussions of, that tells you that the movement is still on, the revolution is still on for calling for good governance. Because good governance is exactly what you want. If the government is working and functional, then everybody will be executing their duty. So we cannot afford to be diverted. This could be a diversional tactic, as you say, geared to whatever. Maybe time will let us know. But also, I'm well convinced it is more of a strategy towards a political realignment. They must figure out, because if the president and the Right Honorable Odinga are not able to come up with an idea, because they just need a concept to try and marshal their followers, their people, into backing them towards the campaign. Because the campaign season is on. Remember, we have less than 2 years. We have about 700 to go to the ballot. And they're feeling now their time bad. If they're not able to come up with a better formula, then they have to start sacrificing some people so they can start to look as if they're doing good. So we wonder who will be the sacrificial lamb.
Well, it could be diversionary, like you're saying. But Moses Wetangula once said, Prof, it's going to be messy and noisy, and there'll be casualties.
Yes.
And now he's Speaker of the National Assembly. Speaking of casualties, yesterday, I'm just looking at, and I dare say, I don't know whether we're now going to deal with a situation where you have crybabies or not, because two things happened. So one, MPs rejected a proposal, a bill tightening power handover procedures. And so a House team shot down that proposed law, which was aimed at streamlining the transition of power following the election of a new president. The move, according to now what happened, obviously deals a significant blow to President William Ruto's administration's efforts then to legislate stricter transition protocols. At the same time, MPs again shot down Ruto Mbadi order on exclusive tendering via portal. You know, the EGPS by all public entities on the grounds that it contravenes the Constitution. Again, the National Assembly last evening unanimously backed the findings of the Committee on Delegated Legislation and annulled it in its entirety, the same way they did with this other one. And this happened when and the MPs threw this out after it was seconded by the leader of minority in the National Assembly, Junet Mohammed. Are we then likely to see, it's a double-edged sword here. On one hand, it's like we are going on a revenge mission. Anything that comes from the executive, we throw it out in its entirety. Or are we then going to have a proper parliament then that is going to do the checks and balances, and we are going to see them now start working and checking the executive, Prof?
It could be both. Start with Wetangula said yes, it will be messy. Yeah? And I think he's getting ready for the message because there's been rumored that he may be one of the people going out. And so he has to fight to retain his position. And then the behavior of the MPs yesterday, which is unusual, that they could do that. Could it be part of the scheme? That
they are in on this?
Yeah, they could be part of they're in there, just say you've rejected, therefore. Because one of the things that the people have complained about is that the MPs are not independent. They are not their own men and women. They wait to be, and the evidence, the president came and said, here's the evidence, we bribe them. They are bribing, they do this and this and this and this. Or somebody bribes them. And so to make the MPs now look as if they are really independent and they are doing things in the national interest, how about reject a few things here and there and be seen to say no? And if that works, then since they know what the ground is, people are not happy with them. Can we start changing the mind frame of the people and think that the MPs are now doing the work they're supposed to do for us instead of condemning them all? So eventually when they do something shady afterwards, maybe we'll have forgotten about it. It could be part of the scheme, but it's that they'll do these things in one day or so after being insulted. Then they do it kind of a revenge that you did this, so we are also not going to do this.
Joseph, how far can President Ruto push this? Because, like you rightfully said, Zakayo Shuka, this was before the impeachment of Gachagua. But then after the protests of last year, then there was, and this was also coupled with other things. You have CSs who are showing off expensive watches, expensive belts, expensive shoes, and it's too much. And there was a rallying call: get these people out. We don't want them. Then we saw what the president did, solve the entire cabinet. And it almost appeared, okay, you've pacified the situation, so let's wait and see what the president is going to do. Only to realize that, okay, later he brings many of them back anyway. Are we heading into a situation where, and I'm just trying to think politics here, if the president has made this statement 3 times, now by the time he's leaving for Japan, he's put a team together. And this team is purely going to be dedicated to deal with this, with the senators and with the MPs. Are we likely to see a case where if there is a lot of pushback, he may end up dissolving parliament? Because the heat is also on MPs and senators. So to throw this heat off from him, throw this heat to the MPs, dissolve the entire parliament.
It's this is a case of probability. It's probable that he could go that way and end up dissolving parliament. But I think, in my opinion, if he does that, he should just be ready not to vie for 2027. That would be the end of him politically if he does that. But on the flip side, then I'm looking at it and seeing that a lot of opposition for this administration continues to come from within. They impeached a deputy president. That is backfiring. As the prof says, he refused to stay dead politically. He came out during the protests of the Gen Z, and where people were very high calling for austerity measures. He came out, he pronounced himself on the matter, but he did not effect it, because that was one way of trying to curb corruption, talk of opulence and other things. And reducing the wage bill. He did not hold to his word. So even now, moving forward, when he comes out and says, I'm putting up a multi-agency team to try and curb this corruption, I mean, his president's word, unfortunately, is almost not holding much nowadays. So to think that this would give us some result that could revamp again, because when you talk of corruption, unfortunately, we keep talking about the money itself. But you look at the moral degradation, corruption of the autonomy of the houses. That is the greatest corruption of all. And then the houses become incompetent. So the rubber stamping of the incompetence is just by finances and money changing hands. But it cuts deeper. That we do not have an administration that is credible, that can be held accountable, that where they say they're going to do this, then we expect in a few days, given the timelines, we may see some report, some commission of inquiry comes together and they give us a report and we can act on it. So I don't think, I don't know whether he could go that direction of dissolving parliament, and if he does, I think that would be the end of him politically. But also I think we need to understand that this corruption is not just about the money. It's about now the affront of the constitution. Constitution is very clear. The houses should be autonomous. If the government business that is tabled on the floor of the house is not good for the people, the MPs unanimously, they do come to tax exempt themselves or raise salaries, should just reject it. Or if it is good for the people, they should then pass. But I think we have a greater problem. We have a leadership issue. And unfortunately, the pronouncements we continue to hear every day, from either from the CSs or from the president himself, they are continuing to build the public, the trust deficit. So I don't see any hope. I don't see the parliament rising to occasion where they can say now we are going to be competent because we've been called to order or because we've been thrown under the bus.
They told the speaker yesterday, we want the president summoned here to explain to us and tell us who are these corrupt MPs.
I live for the day.
Where we all do. And
when that will happen.
I'm just trying to think of scenarios here. Right. So if the president makes the first move and says, okay, we're going to make arrests, or will the MP then arrest the situation and say, look, let's actually summon the president and maybe we might actually even end up impeaching him. Is that a possibility?
Like I said, it's a case of probability. Anything could happen. Remember, he's also coming to address the House maybe later in the year. So it's not very far away from now, just a couple of weeks, maybe 10 or thereabouts. So it's interesting to see how it plays out.
If we talk about what the president has said and what MPs are now doing, one asks the question, who has the upper hand? Is anyone here taking advantage of their positions, because Parliament for a very long time has been the oversight body for the executive, and the executive as well has always been the one that has been controlling Parliament, that for a very long time has been captured by the executive. So as we sit here right now, who has the upper hand? Can anyone in this situation put their money where the mouth is?
Well, I think the president has the upper hand. We are yet to see the Parliament assert itself properly. But if the mood continues that way, then they will be expected to propose a motion of impeachment, because the president seemingly has failed in many things. And when he attacked them, their egos and personalities became the issue, so they are reacting. So one way they can show whether they are serious is to suggest that an impeachment. And it's good they're asking the president to come and answer questions. And if he doesn't answer the questions, what do they do next? Or are they also scared that the police might go to Parliament and have them arrested? Because arrest about 100 of them, then there'll be no Parliament. So as long as the president has the security services under him, he can say it's national emergency, and which would be going a little far. But at present, he has the upper hand. And in terms of propaganda, he's trying to take advantage and to be seen as to be the clean fellow, and these others to be. And even when Raila went there and said, remove the CDF, and he said, wait a minute, you are not. Was he being realistic or was he playing games? Because
you kind of have to ask about everything now, don't you?
Yeah, everything they say is questionable. And I remember Olo Aringo said the reason they created CDF is so that he can eat fish in Kisumu without being harassed by people. Because CDF was his campaign money for doing business to be doing things for the public. And then you are going to remove this. They say, wait a minute, are you out of your mind? And so but that's why it appears as if the whole thing is well orchestrated, rather than just being random. And the fact that people are talking about it, instead of maybe
focusing on a fellow,
yes, then it's working to that extent.
Quickly from both of you as we wrap up this conversation this morning, because it's all a wait and see kind of thing. Like they say, a day in politics is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day in politics. Who would have known that we would be having this conversation at this time? But what does it look like going in, and what do we ask Kenyans to do?
I think we ask ourselves as Kenyans to remain woke and know that this is our nation, this is our country, and we should own it, and we should hold all the leadership to account. By whatever means necessary, we should continue speaking truth to power.
Prof?
Yeah, I would agree. Vigilance is a very good thing. Ask a lot of questions, and that's why the youth are very good. Keep on asking questions when things are not making sense. And in general, the country will be safe. Don't worry. Especially if the youth are asking questions. The country is safe. If they are quiet, we're in trouble.
If you're quiet, you're in trouble. Definitely remain awake and focused on certain things. That's with the conversation that we're having this morning. Professor Macharia Munene and Josphat Kamanya, thank you so much for being here with us this morning into this conversation. They continue. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.